Hi, everybody. We are back again with the Black Lawyers Podcast today. I'm so excited that I have attorney Jas from Jas Talks Law and Jay Gerren from the Bar Daddy movie joining us to talk about all things bar exam. It is that time of year where you're probably studying for the bar if you're listening to this podcast, though you should be studying too. That if you graduated, you're getting ready to take the bar exam next month, perhaps for the first time, perhaps for the second, third, or fourth time, but we'll get into that later in terms of tips on how to pass the bar, and also a really exciting movie coming out highlighting Black lawyers passing the bar with a wonderful bar coach, former attorney in Los Angeles. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to first jump into our hot topics. Hi, Jas. Hi, Jay.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yes. I've been meaning to do this episode for a while. I didn't do it last year for the first season, but you can't be a lawyer without passing the bar. So I think as much as you can do it, you check all the other boxes, but if you don't check this box, you don't become a lawyer. So I definitely wanted to highlight, the struggles, misconceptions, the stigmas with, not passing the bar, all of that in this particular episode. But before we jump into that, I wanted to do hot topics with you. All my guests have to play hot topics, whether they want to or not. So anyway, so we're going to jump in. So our first hot topic, gun control. Second Amendment rights, right? So if you're familiar with the Constitution, you can constitutionally bear arms. I don't think anyone necessarily in general has an issue with people bearing arms and protecting themselves. But with all the shootings, I think in the last 2 weeks, there have been like 8 mass shootings, which they define as 4 more victims, not including the shooter.
Yeah.
And so the ones that stick out are obviously the grocery store in Buffalo, the kids in Uvalde, the graduation students, I believe at Xavier, and then they just shot a doctor, a surgeon.
Yeah.
A patient was unhappy. I'm like, well, I hope lawyers not next. They're not, I don't want people to get mad at lawyers and start going up in the courtroom and shooting lawyers. I mean, it's just setting this precedent that if you are dysfunctional, whether it be because of mental illness or whatever the case may be, that's the solution.
Yeah.
You could legally go and buy a gun and go into a public area and kill people. That it's setting that precedent that that's the solution to your grievance. And I don't know. I'm all about people and their rights, but what are your thoughts in terms of maybe what's a midway point, maybe between, people that want to rightfully, safely own guns.
Yeah.
And people that are like, okay, there has to be some sort of control on this because so many innocent people are being killed. I'll start with you, Jess. What do you think is a midway point?
I think the midway point is, regulations, better regulations. I'm like you. I got 2 guns in my house, and if you come up in here and you ain't supposed to be here, baby, if it's you or me, it's gonna be you. No hesitation. I always want the right to bear arms, but I was also okay with going downtown Atlanta and, putting in my application and getting my fingerprints done and, having a little background check. Now in Georgia, the law has recently changed where you don't have to do any of that anymore. And that was kind of concerning to me. I didn't mind doing those steps because I knew I didn't have anything to hide. I think, we're in a country where we're regulating women's bodies more than we're regulating guns. And I have a huge issue with that. I think a partial of the solution is regulations. And I say partially because, we put that, let's say on the federal level, right, we get better gun regulations in place, more background checks, more looking into mental health or whatever. Let's say we do all those things. You still have some folks who are getting guns illegally, right? Who went in auntie's closet and grabbed something, so, it's not a complete solution, but I think we can do a little bit better if we can justify more control over women's bodies, then I think we can also justify more regulation over our guns.
For sure. Jay, your thoughts about everything that's happened?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Jasmin. I'm also a gun owner, but I'm in California, and in California you have to take a test. And then in addition to that, you're fingerprinted, and then after that you come back, I believe it was a week or so, and then you're allowed. So it's a whole process. I mean, to imagine being able to, and there's also a cooling off period that there should be, because a lot of people, they may get upset like that situation, but I don't really understand the argument for some of these assault weapons. I just don't understand the argument.
I'm glad you said that, because I think part of the midway point, one, whatever the rule is, it should be federal. It should be state by state. The rules should be federal so that all states have to follow the same rules. So I think that's a good starting point. Whatever the rules are going to be, it needs to be federal, so there can be some consistency. The second thing is, at a minimum, what do we need assault rifles for? Like, we're not at war, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I never understood why like certain guns were even legally allowed to be purchased. So I just feel like you said, just the little things, making it a federal rule so everyone follows the same rules. Don't allow assault weapons. Maybe not allow 18-year-olds to have guns. I mean, especially
you gotta be 21 to drink.
Well, and also the brain of a man, this is biology, this is not me, is not as developed as a woman, you know, so having these, you know, young guys go out here, 18 years old, or even a woman, but definitely young guys going out here, they're definitely not emotionally, mentally ready to handle a gun responsibility. So I hear you, Jas. I think you know, it's not going to solve all the shootings, but just think if we had what I just talked about on the books. Right?
Well,
a lot of the things would not have happened. So
when you compare us to other countries, a lot of people say, well, that's the kind of the thing that those other countries have. It's harder to get those things there. And it's much easier to get it. They say there's more guns than citizens in the US. And that's one of the things that you don't see in other countries. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't know why it's so easy, but so yeah.
Well, I guess I would have guessed it wrong. I wouldn't have guessed that either one of you guys are gun owners. I don't know. It's, you know what? I probably know more gun owners, and just because I've never thought to ask. I don't own a gun. Eventually I do want to, like you said, safely learn how to, you know, use it so that I can purchase one and have one, because I definitely, you know, with everything going on, it's definitely getting ready to look like the end of a Netflix movie, you know.
I want to challenge you to make a move towards getting that gun within at least the next month. As a Black woman walking around in America, we have to protect ourselves. You know, we have to protect ourselves. We are the most disrespected people in this country. Like, we have to protect ourselves left and right. I mean, folks are getting kidnapped, you know, targeted. You going into a gas station and, you know, all these racial slurs are just being thrown at you. People start punching you. I mean, it's just, we all have like this fear of guns and things like that. And it's just like, at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves. Like, we have to.
I think for me, I just want to know how to like actually use it safely, where I store it and all that. I think once I had that sort of, you know, training, I think I'd be comfortable. My brother is a victim of gun violence. Thankfully, he survived. And you would think someone like him that was shot so many times would be anywhere near a gun, but he's like, no, I want to be able to protect myself. So he's actually getting training along with my mom, because he lives with my mom who's elderly. They're going to get like, you know, a training class and all that. And so, I definitely feel, I think I'm on the same page with both of you. It's really about smart and safe gun. It's not about, you know, completely taking guns away. With that being said, moving on to the other amendment, First Amendment, free speech. Okay, so we have young thug and gunner, you know, in Georgia, where you are, Jas, being indicted for several things. Several things under the RICO charges in Georgia. And so our DA, Fani Willis, is not playing with them.
She's not playing.
She's not playing. And you know what? I'm for tough DAs, especially for people that actually, commit crimes and it can be proven and all that. But the issue, and why this is a hot topic, the issue is that part of a lot of her evidence is based on lyrics, in particular to Young Gunna, because I know, there's I'm sorry, Young Thug, because there's Young Thug, Gunna, and then some other people. Obviously, you don't know that they're not as famous. But as it relates to Young Thug, she has cited several lyrics, highlighted them, like, see, this is where he admitted that the lawyers hid the bodies, or, like she's highlighting lyrics. What are your thoughts on, because I know in New York State, on the state level, they are they have a law that's getting ready to pretty much pass through that lyrics can't be used against defendants unless obviously it can be shown that it's actually true. What they said in the lyrics actually happened, but the weight is on the assumption is that it's lyrics and it's free speech and it can't be used. It can only be used if you can beat that presumption. What do you think about that being kind of like a federal thing where, again, defendants who tend to be Black, they're not white, who may have had, a certain history, a certain past before they became rappers, creatively putting maybe some of those experiences creatively in their music, and then it being turned around and used against them in indictments. What are your thoughts on that, Jas, and then Jay?
I'm very big on artistic expression. I'm very big because, once when you open that door to using all these lyrics, it starts to become a slippery slope, leaving room for other things to become evidence that shouldn't, artistic expression. I mean, how can you really say that's where that came from, right? That's like a huge leap. If your case is being built around some lyrics, I think you have a pretty weak case, and I would probably like to be the criminal defense attorney on the other side. If your whole case is based on just some lyrics on a song, then that's a very weak case. But I would also say my other concern with Thug, Gunna, and not just them, but rappers in general, is why are y'all putting these in y'all lyrics to begin with?
It's just don't post your crimes on social media. And then we got to tell people, don't talk about your crimes in your music.
And not just that, where are their friends or their lawyers who are like, let's not release that song?
Again, I think they probably thought that they could argue, oh, I just made up the story for the song. I think up until now, I don't think someone has really gone this hard. So I don't think they thought it would ever be used against them. But just like they tell you, be careful what you put in an email, be careful what you put in a text, be careful what you post on social media. A lot of criminals are really going down on some of these basic things. Now, I will say this, I'll rewind a little bit. Her whole case is not based on lyrics. Obviously, she has like some text messages and she has a lot of alleged witness testimony, which that could go one way or another. But a big part of her case is the lyrics. So I don't know, a part of me feels like, maybe you should have just left the lyric. If you have other evidence, maybe just leave the lyric part out, because to me, it's making the case more controversial than it already is. Jay, what are your thoughts?
No, I side completely with the two of you, especially as an artist myself. You have to be able to be creative. And I have been studying a little bit of the case. I know one thing I heard was that I guess somebody's mom was shot, and then there was subsequent lyrics where he said something about shooting someone's mom. So I guess they tied the two together. But a lot of times, if you're an entertainer, you may boast, and maybe these things didn't happen. Maybe you were kind of bragging to look cool. So I totally agree with you all. Why, if you have a strong case, why put that in there? And I think it's a slippery slope. I really do. And I tend to think that they should just focus on the evidence that they have rather than putting the lyrics in, because that can open up so much, especially if you grew up in the 90s and you remember a lot of those rappers. And
I know. They all would be in jail. I mean, Tupac alive. They would have been locked up left and right.
So. But even like their money, like, when you look at music videos, we think the car, so you see a car in the video, does that mean they own that car? No, it's probably rented. those big stacks of money that we see that's prop money. None of that money is real. So is the IRS going to look at that and say, "Oh, you didn't include,"
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like,
you just like, it could just open the door to so much other parts of regulation of that creative.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Well, speaking about being creative and expressive, our last hot topic, it has pulled in a Black business owner in Brooklyn, New York. She is the owner of Skin, SKKN Plus. She had an opposition about a year ago to Kim Kardashian's use of the word skin, SKKN, because again, she already owned a business with skin and spa services. I want to say they filed their applications maybe around the same time. And, out the gate, I think last year there was a little talk about it, but it kind of died down. I think people assume maybe their lawyers talked to each other and then, maybe they worked something out. And then Kim announces, okay, I'm not going to do skin. I'm going to do Skin by Kim. I'm just going to throw my name into the trademark, right? Just to make sure that she was maybe trying to stay away.
The differentiation.
Right. Trying to differentiate, which, I think that was actually the better idea to add her name. But that wasn't good enough because now people are on Kim Kardashian about another Black owner, Lori Harvey, who has just SKN, Skin by LH, Lori Harvey. And so they're like, well, you added your name, but now it's sounding like Skin by LH. So Kim Kardashian can't win, apparently, with this trademark. A part of me just feels like she should have just tried to do something completely different to avoid the drama. And this is obviously trademarks. I know, Jas, you do some trademark law.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, can someone live, I try not to make everything a black-white thing, but people have definitely made this about, Kim once again, or the Kardashians once again, trying to misappropriate something from Black people. That's what, even if that's not what she's trying to do, that's how it's coming off. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Listen, at the end of the day, when you are a person with money and influence, and you have a team of lawyers, particularly trademark infringement lawyers that know how to draft a good coexisting agreement, anything is possible. And that appears to be what has happened here. Unfortunately, we live in a space where, yes, these brands seem similar. They both have SKN or SKNN or, whatever, but adding that, that addition by LH, by Kim, any customer that looks at that, oh, okay, this is Kim's brand, this is Lori's brand, right? So the parties are able to say, but it would be different if it wasn't someone like a Kim or someone like a Lori Harvey, but we know them both individually so well that I imagine their lawyers came together, or even the other young lady, they all came together and recognized that it would be best for them to coexist. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if I was the first lady that trademarked, I would be very happy because I'm sure she got a nice paycheck with that coexistence agreement. Okay. Like, we're all up
and again,
war.
I don't know if agreements, I know that technically, and again, maybe they're still working on it. Supposedly the woman from Brooklyn is the one that has the opposition. Lori Harvey has not opposed Kim, only the woman from Brooklyn. But the gag is the SKN, just SKN by itself, has actually already been trademarked by a white woman in Beverly Hills.
Right.
Exactly.
That's gag. So people are like all going against Kim. I'm like, y'all know that just SKN, it has and Skin by, Skin Beverly Hills, both Skin and Skin Beverly Hills, they've already been like their actual registrations. This woman, who again is not famous, actually already has the registration. So it just goes to show, again, it's a popular brand, a popular name to use in a brand with skincare products. And I think, to your point of coexistence, these individuals, for the most part, I will say the woman in Brooklyn, she offers services. She doesn't really offer products. So right then, people are never going to mix you up with Kim because you don't even offer products. And I'm sure that's one of the arguments that Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, that one is more of a slippery slope because, like, if you think of like an Avita, like they have the cosmetology school,
but
right?
Eventually,
that's a
they'll probably
service.
want to have the products.
But they also have, some Avita products, or Paul Mitchell. right?
Mhm.
You know, they have their products, they also have their services. So it really becomes a slippery slope. But I really think, you know, for a lot of folks out there who are looking at this case, understanding that if people know you in this world as Ari or Kim or whatever, right, adding that differentiation could possibly save you.
Mhm.
But why do that? Why enter a crowded market? You know, I get trademark clients all the time, and I tell them, like, let's say they want to do earthquake perfume or something. I don't know. I just came up with a word.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, earthquake perfume is already trademarked. And they're like, okay, well, can I do earthquake by Jas? I'm like, that might get approved. You know, there's a better chance of that.
Mhm.
But why enter a crowded space? And that's my issue with this. You know, Kim could literally call it whatever she wants in the whole wide world.
Outsell and not even have to
I-
use the word.
Like, why?
That's the
Why
irony of all
even?
this. You could call it anything and it still would do well.
Yeah, literally.
I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jay? Do you know a little bit
Well,
about trademark stuff? Have
I
you heard
should
about
have
this?
talked to Jasmin a couple weeks ago. I actually just filed a trademark.
Oh, really?
One of my company, Melanin Flex, and
Okay.
when you go through the process, you have to do a search, and
Right.
there's a lot of things with melanin, but there was nothing with Melanin Flex. So
Wow.
hopefully I'm in the clear. Hopefully I'm in the clear, because it was nothing similar offering the type of the services that I'm offering. It's mainly a clothing company that my daughter's running, but it was like that whole process you have to check. And I'm thinking if Kim's people would have done that, they would have saw the lady in Beverly Hills that you mentioned is the rightful owner and then went to her. But I think when celebrities or people with influence do stuff, they just say, I'm just going to do it and we'll worry about it later. And,
we'll pay them off.
We'll pay them off.
Right. Or we'll cross that bridge when they get there, if they even dare to come up against it. Because some people, they feel like wouldn't even do it. Like they figure, they wouldn't want to waste the resources to come up against us. Again, a lot of people that have money and time, they're like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
So.
The good thing about social media is if it wasn't for social media, that lady in Brooklyn, she might have not have had a voice.
I was gonna say it ironically, this trademark conflict is actually driving a lot of business
exactly
to her site. And I'm sure the woman in Beverly Hills, I don't think people would have really even known a lot about either one of the less famous two individuals. So I will say that, well, I think the Kardashians are good at, no press is bad, or no news is bad. Like all press is good press. It doesn't matter whether it's negative, positive. We're talking about it on my podcast, right? So I definitely think
exactly.
the plus side, I think for all four ladies, is that, again, it's brought attention to their brands. Obviously, we wish them well. I'm all about, Black business, small Black business owners and things like that, protecting their brands, protecting their trademarks. So hopefully the woman in Brooklyn can work something out with Kim. I'm sure whatever happens, it'll be in the news because they brush their teeth. There's a story.
Listen, please, if Kim Kardashian happens to listen to this, please launch Kim Talks Law. Please. I am begging you. I am begging this. Go do it. Please.
So then you can be in the news like, Jas Talks Law was first. Okay. For sure, Kim, if you're listening, for sure. Okay. So with that being said, Jas, I wanted to jump into a few questions so the audience can get to know you, and then we'll switch over to producer director Jay. But you are obviously an attorney, you're a coach. Who are you before an attorney and a coach? Like what school did you go to? Who were you before what you are now?
Ooh, child. Who was I before an attorney and a coach? I was a Southside Richmond, Virginia know-it-all teenager.
Okay.
That's who I was, that then went on to Hampton University, the best HBCU ever. The funny thing is, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer before I was a lawyer. I remember writing about that in high school. That was my plan. But before all of this, I had no idea, that I would be able to do some of the things that I've done now, in terms of being a lawyer, being a coach, being an entrepreneur. It's really been a very eye-opening self-discovery, journey for myself. And it's just like, when I look at who I was before all the titles and all the accolades, even though the titles and accolades have differentiated me, a bit, of course, but at the same time, if you ask anyone, I'm still that same girl, we still gonna kick it, we still gonna hang out. One thing about me, I'm gonna treat everybody the same regardless. I'm very still touched into my roots, and regardless of all the titles and the accolades, I'm still Jas.
Great. Now tell me about the moment that you decided, okay, I'm really going to attend law school. Because you said you always knew you were going to be a lawyer, but it's like to take that leap and say, okay, I'm actually going to go to law school.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do this?
Oh, yes. The funny thing is, everyone in my family has been divorced at least once. And the running joke of that is including me.
Okay.
And I say that to say that everyone's crazy situation is what sparked me to want to go to law school. I remember some very crazy moments, and particularly my mom and my dad. And my mom was telling me she was going to see her divorce lawyer one day. And I'm like, what is that? What do they do? I'm just asking her all these questions. Right. And I'm like, so I can help people get out of a bad situation. And, I was probably in middle school,
wow,
when we had this conversation. And of course, I had planned to have like a 1-800 divorce sign, on the side of in Atlanta or something like that. But God had other plans, obviously. I did do family law for a short time, but it was really my family. A lot of times we, look so harshly on our past and our journey and the things that went wrong, the dramas with our families. But honestly, if it wasn't for some of those dark moments with a lot of my family, I probably wouldn't be here.
Interesting. So when you were in law school, what was your favorite law school class?
Ooh, in law school, family law.
It was family law. Because
that
was part of the reason why you were there. I'm going to get out and help people, with their family law situations, either divorce or custody. Okay.
I also enjoyed statutory interpretation.
I don't even know what that is. I don't think I do.
Just the class, you took it, the class where you look at different laws and how poorly worded they are.
No, I don't think I took that one. Is that an elective? Is it
at my school? It wasn't. But it's just some laws that were written very poorly. And it's like, when you go to enforce those laws, it's like, what does this even really mean? So trying to interpret those different statutes, was a problem, for many, many years. And I really enjoyed that class because I'm big on words and what does this word really mean? Us as lawyers, we're just like that. Well, you said this, not
and
this.
And now you handle words as a trademark lawyer. So you got to look at words all the time. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just meant to be. A lot of law students, especially, I'm not going to even say law students of color, Black law students, because this is the Black Lawyers podcast.
Okay.
I love this podcast because I can just talk about Black people. I don't have to be so correct. People of color. No, Black law students face discrimination while they're there, whether it's amongst their classmates or their professors. And maybe it's not completely outward, but sometimes you have those various experiences.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment, what law school did you go to? Did you feel like, you were one of the few, or did you go to a HBC law school? Tell us if there was any discriminatory feelings in law school at any point in time as a lawyer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I attended Mercer University School of Law, which is a predominantly white institution at a PWI. Mm-hmm. Up until Mercer, I had been in Black schools my entire life. So this is my first time being the minority. And when I tell y'all, I was so scared, I just didn't even know what to expect, being one of few, in my whole school. Luckily, Mercer's Black Law Student Association kind of swooped in and picked me up so quickly, and that became my family instantly. Did that mean we didn't have issues? We absolutely did. When I was a second year law student, there was 2 constitutional law classes, 2 professors that taught constitutional law, and we took it as second years. I luckily got the professor that I'm not about to talk about, but the other professor that taught constitutional law, one day in the classroom, so supposedly it was an educational moment, he used the N-word, and he used it more than once after, the after the gas, and he kept using it like, and supposedly his justification was some type of educational moment. I won't even try to explain that because I still don't get it. With that being said, after that happened, even though that wasn't my professor, we took it amongst ourselves. We being BASA, we got the news involved. We started petitions. Our whole goal was to get this professor fired. We were on the news. We were protesting, because at the end of the day, even though I wasn't in that classroom, if it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us, period. And if we don't make a stand for this could happen again.
Was he ever reprimanded?
Yeah, he was. Okay. He no longer, he was a tenured professor, so he wasn't fired, but he no longer teaches mandatory classes. That was the compromise that we reached. Because at the time, he was teaching constitutional law, right? A class
and that's a required course.
Right. But now you only take that professor if you want to take that professor. Unfortunately, my third year, I really wanted to take contract drafting, but guess who teached it? Him. So guess who didn't take it?
Right.
But it sucks because as a Black law student, it's like we're here to learn. We're here to, get our degree. We're here to soak up the experiences. But a lot of people don't realize we have this extra pressure. Like I shouldn't be taking time away from learning, studying to go protest. Like I'm out here protesting. I'm out here, talking to the news people when I should be studying, right? And a lot of people don't get that extra pressure, that comes with being a Black law student.
Well, moving from a bad experience, give us your best experience in law school that you can remember.
Ooh, my best experience in law school. I will say my best experience in law school is back to constitutional law, is when I got my constitutional law grade back. So my entire semester, I don't know how constitutional law was for you, but that class was hard. Mm-hmm. I did not understand constitutional law until 2 weeks before the final exam, and then it just all clicked, supposedly. But what that means is all semester long, I was having anxiety attacks. I couldn't sleep. It was really daunting, right? But something just kept telling me to just keep trying, don't give up, don't, get frustrated, but let it pass and continue studying. And like I said, 2 weeks before the exam, it finally all started to click. And then of course I get my grade back and I got an A. And it was just like,
yeah. I thought you were going to say you got a B. You're like, well, that's
no,
good. You got an A.
Wow. I got a freaking A. And I'm like, dang, maybe all of that was worth it. I would say a close second, or also a time moment, I encourage this for all future law students, current law students, study abroad. Please study abroad. I studied abroad twice in law school, and that was hands down, up there with getting an A. For the simple fact that, listen, I don't know about y'all, I graduated with law school debt, a lot of it. And I said, listen, if I'm gonna graduate with debt, I'm gonna get a few trips out of it, period. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm gonna get a trip or two,
I never thought to go abroad in law school. I did it in college, but I don't think they even mentioned anything about law school about going abroad.
You know what? My school didn't offer any programs. I was considered a transfer student during those summer programs, at other law schools.
Yeah, because my school definitely didn't mention anything. Because again, when I think abroad, I think of college, and I definitely went to Spain. I did a semester abroad in Spain. But yeah, that's
oh my God,
that's in law school. So go abroad.
To mention, I have a third moment. I cannot. Oh my God, I have to mention this really quickly. Which is above getting an A, which is above studying abroad. Jas Talks Law.
Okay, Jas Talks Law. Okay.
Jas Talks Law started because of Mercer. Literally, I was a second-year student, and they called me into their office. I thought I was in trouble. They said, "Hey, do you want to go back to Hampton and represent us? At the Brad Fair?" I was like, "Are y'all paying for me to go?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Absolutely." And then literally, I planned a Jas Talks Law event on Hampton's campus, and that is none of this would have transpired. And I mean, sometimes I'm like, should I have gone to this school or that school or whatever? I know for a fact if I didn't go to Mercer, Jas Talks Law would have never began. So I'm just so thankful.
Well, it just goes to show Like everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
Now, for our listeners that are watching this and not listening to this, they see your beautiful pink and green 5% of lawyers are Black, which is her trademark, by the way.
Okay.
So don't try to say it. So that leads to my next question. The legal profession is currently less than 5% Black. What do you think in general we can do to grow the legal profession with more Black attorneys? In general, what do you think can be done?
Yeah, I think number one is the conversations that we have about it, right? Where we're telling folks that law school is too expensive, right? No shit.
Yeah. Any graduate program is going to be expensive, right?
Right. But guess what? You don't have to pay for it. I don't care how expensive it is. If it's a free ride, does it matter? Right? That's the piece we leave out. My future lawyers have done over $3 million in law school scholarships. They're not paying for law school at all. And then on top of that is there's so much myth of, I don't think I'm smart enough for law school. And it's like, you're not smart. Law school is, I think you would agree with me. Law school is not about being smart.
No.
Law school is about discipline. It's about studying when you don't feel like it. It's about, being able to push through those dark moments and, be in the library until 1 a.m., whatever you need to do. Like, it's not even about being smart. I would
you actually relearn. I always tell people you can actually go straight from high school to law school. There's nothing in college that prepares you for law school, because they literally retrain you how to think. Right, you literally learn everything all over anyway. So you could literally go from high school to law school, and there would be nothing.
Listen, if I maybe you're equipped for that, but I would have probably been the most immature lawyer if I didn't have those 4 years to grow up just a tad.
I actually have an intern. She's pretty popular on Instagram. She's like an influencer now, but she was my intern. I'll shout her out, Honor Williams. She graduated from high school at 15, high school at 15 or 16. So she finished college at like 20 and then law school 24. So yeah, I mean, she was like a 20-year-old entering law school. So yeah, and I don't know, everyone has a different level of maturity, but yes, aside from the emotional maturity, you're right, that they play a part in it. In terms of just learning what you need to learn, they actually retrain you how to read and think. So with that being said, what are your three best tips on surviving law school?
My top 3 tips for surviving law school is understanding you're going to fail your way to the top. Number one. A lot of times we start off the semester and we get so flustered and frustrated because it's not clicking. We don't understand that you're going to fail and you're going to learn from your failures in law school. And then you're going to get better. And now you're going to pass the exam, right? And that leads me into the second one, practice. Law school is about practicing, right? How do you, learn from your failures? By practicing. You practice. We call it the practice of law. A lot of law students don't get, you don't just show up to your exam and just take it. You should have done at least 4 practice exams, before the real test day. And that's how you learn from your mistakes. You take those practice exams, those practice essay questions. You learn from them. You take it to your professor, get feedback. So the next time you do it, you've done it better. I would say the third tip for success in law school is having that core group of friends. For me, it was the Black Law Student Association. I would not attend a law school. I would not, if you don't hear anything else I'm saying, I would not attend a law school that doesn't have that good bossa. When I tell you they're the reason that I did well, they were the ones that, when other people were telling me, oh, C's get degrees, Bossa was like, you can get an A. It's going to be a little hard, but if you do X, Y, and Z, you can get an A. And I'm listening, taking notes, and I got that A. You know what I mean? So really understanding you can fail your way to the top, understanding this is the practice of law because you're constantly practicing throughout law school and even as a lawyer. And then, of course, finding that bossa.
What are your tips? Because again, you're a coach, not to just get people in school, but once they're done with school, taking the actual LSAT, taking the actual bar exam. What is like at least 1 or 2 tips in terms of like testing? Because I feel like test taking is just a different animal. You could just be really smart and still fail an exam, and I think there's a disconnect with that. So, right. So what do you think, whether someone is taking the LSAT or they're taking the bar exam,
Right.
what are just like one or two tips that you feel like, someone should know before they sit down and take these type of exams?
Right. I think one is kind of what you were already hinting at, is understanding this test is just a number. Understanding this test does not really predict anything, whether it's the LSAT or the bar exam. I know plenty of horrible lawyers that passed the bar exam. Okay. I know plenty of people who did horribly on the LSAT, such as myself. My highest LSAT was a 144, right? But I graduated law school with honors and passed the bar after the first try. According to their test number, I shouldn't have done well, period, right? But number one is understanding this is just a test score. It doesn't have to define you if you don't let it. I would say number two is most future lawyers, where they mess up is they haven't gotten their foundation right, but they want to do things fast. Meaning, with the LSAT, with the bar exam, you have those time parameters. You have to do this essay within 90 minutes. You have 35 minutes to complete this section. And they're like, oh, I can't get through this section in 35 minutes. And I'm like, okay, well, if you didn't have, it was on time, can you do it then? No. Well, you don't know how to do it. You can't do anything fast that you don't know how to do slow. So let's figure out how to do it slow first. And that leads me into my third point. I think a lot of times we think that, I'll just order some books, I'll just, try to wing it on my own. No. The LSAT, the bar exam, get into a bar prep course, all that, those are mandatory, and then a lot of folks talk about the money, but at the end of the day, whether you're paying for my services, for me to edit your personal statement, or for me to keep you accountable if you're LSAT prep, or if you're paying, $1,000 for the LSAT prep course, or whatever it is, if you look at it as an investment, right? An investment that you can get a huge return on it. I mean, we're talking about my future lawyers who have gotten $100,000 to go to law school, and they may have invested $2,000 in that. And of course, there's some folks who, can't afford, or this is that and the third, but there's so many resources out there. I have a pre-law masterclass where I teach y'all how to basically get a prep course for under $200. And I have future lawyers who have done well that way. So really just, those are my top tips.
So with that being said, it's interesting. I think you already answered my next question in terms of, if you failed the exam, and I know Jay is going to tell us more about this film that features, again, some attorneys that work with his uncle that may have failed the exam, that a number does not define you,
right.
or the word pass and fail does not define you. So I definitely feel like that is, if you're listening to this, whether you're getting ready to take it for your first time or second, third, or fourth time, if you eventually study the right way and take the time to, like you said, actually learn the information, whether you're taking it fast or slow, right? You will eventually pass, and then it won't even matter how many times you took it. Nobody ever asks, well, how many times did you take it? It's, are you a lawyer? Did you ever pass? Like, and I think once you get over that hurdle, you realize that, but until then, there's almost like this stigma. So, I definitely encourage people to not let it define them. With that being said, and this is a question actually for you, Jay and Jas, and then we'll segue to a few questions to learn more about the Bar Daddy movie. Ketanji Brown Jackson will, has been confirmed. She will be the first Black female U.S. Supreme Court justice. Quickly, what are, and I'll start with you, Jay, and Jas, what are your thoughts on, her achieving this, and how she had to really go through the ringer with her confirmation hearing, probably more than probably anybody else has. I won't name any names. So Jay, what are your thoughts? And then Jas.
And you guys, I'm gonna run over this direction for like 2 seconds, and I'll be right back.
Yes, and I'm also gonna get my charger, but Jay, take it away.
All right. Well, my thing is, I remember when I was a kid, everybody would say there would never be a Black president, and that was just nothing that we should aspire for, because it would never happen. Mm-hmm. And thankfully for President Obama, that's no longer the case for the young people coming up. And somebody else may have said there will never be a Black female Supreme Court justice. Well, guess what? That's happened now. So I would just say hope. It gives hope, and that hope stretches from generation to generation to generation. As far as how she was treated, that's just sad. Politics. I felt she was treated very unfairly, but unfortunately I can't say I'm surprised. Because that's pretty much how things go. But yeah, she just gives an amazing hope, and I'm just so proud of her.
Yeah,
she's able.
I love what you said, that we were told before there would never be a Black president. So so every time we check these boxes off, it definitely just gives hope to the next generation that it's even possible. And I think it's really cool. All three of us have witnessed. First Black president, first Black vice president, first Black female Supreme Court justice. So, I mean, it's cool in our lifetime we can actually say it, because those that have gone before us cannot say that they would have witnessed that. Jas, what are your thoughts on Ketanji Brown Jackson?
I actually, I spoke about this on Revolt TV News right before she was actually confirmed, when she began, the whole confirmation process. And what troubled me the most with her is that everyone wanted her to have a 100% perfect record. And it was to the point where they could only, first off, they could only point out two. Let me not put up one hand. Let me put up one hand. They could only point out two cases. There was literally only two cases they could talk about where maybe she didn't make the right call. And when I was on Revolt TV News, I told them, I said, listen, if a judge only has two cases, that maybe they didn't make the best decision on, that is an outstanding. That is an outstanding. Like, what are we really talking about here, right? We want her to be superwoman. It's like the Black woman always has this pressure to be perfect, right? Where other folks, they get away with freaking murder, and it's absolutely disgusting. And I must also add, I was very happy to see that my sis had locks. When I tell you the lock girl,
for our listeners that aren't watching this, Jas has locks in her hair, so she's repping.
Yes.
We'll call it the Ketanji locks moving forward. Yeah.
Right, but seriously, like, so many future lawyers, they come to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I see you with your locks. I can have locks as a lawyer," and I'm like, "Girl, yes." And I'm just Jas, but we have someone
shout out to the Crown Act that is
okay.
And this is not even just in the legal world. This is even, this is a great transition to producer Jay. That not just in the legal world, the Crown Act is also for actors and things like that you cannot be discriminated against because you have natural hair, even working in the entertainment industry. And so with that being said, producer, director Jay, we're going to get into a few of your questions about you and your movie. When did you decide to go on this journey of becoming a producer and director? And tell us a little bit about your uncle's influence on this. Who I learned in the trailer, he's an attorney, but he does some photography and some other things. Yeah. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
I mean, I would say he's definitely what you would call a Renaissance man. He's into so many different things. For me, my first documentary was called Searching for Mentors. It's about a young African-American man, boy, that was going to be graduating from high school, and he had no African-American mentors. So he went out and he interviewed a surgeon. He interviewed a African-American police lieutenant, an admiral, and then he had to decide what he was going to do after that. My second documentary was called Inglewood Morning Sessions. It was an NBA player, Paul Pierce, and his mentor, Lieutenant Collins. And interesting enough, my uncle actually saw that film, and he was really impressed by it because people had been asking him to do this documentary for a long time. And he's very, very particular about what he does in that space. Keep in mind, he's 86 years old. He's been doing this since 1975.
Wow.
And if you talk to, I invite you right now, pick up your phone and call any attorney or judge in LA and ask them if they know Al Jenkins. I will give you $1,000 if they say they don't. That's how popular he is. So I've been on him for a while to do it, and he just finally decided, okay, I trust you. Not just because you're my nephew, but because I know that you're gonna put me in the right light. So that's pretty much how he got started and how I was able to start this film.
So how many lawyers, I don't know if you know the exact number, but on average, how many lawyers has he helped to date? Because you said he's been doing this since 1976?
1975.
Okay.
He doesn't know the exact number, but we put it somewhere around 4,000.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. About 4,000. And keep in mind, he's done it all for free. He's never accepted any money from anyone for what he's done.
Does he still tutor?
Yes, he does. Yeah,
yes,
he's still. That's the only time you can't talk to him is when during that time he doesn't have. He will only answer the phone from his law students. Wow. But anybody else, he won't answer the phone. He mainly tutors the essay portion. And the interesting thing is he's completely off the grid in the sense that he doesn't do email. He doesn't have a cell phone. So he doesn't allow you to use your computer. It's funny when you see the film, you'll see that somebody has a laptop out. He's like, no, put that away. You're gonna write. Because he feels as though you memorize better from writing.
Right. It's a way that you record. Your mind records when you write things down.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's his style, and it's a different style, and it does not work for everybody. I have some people in the film that it does not work for, but the ones that it does work for, they see massive success from his work.
You mentioned that he doesn't charge. So obviously, I'm sure he has a very selective process on who he takes on. What is the process of if somebody wanted to contact him and sign up? Does he have like an application process in terms of who he decides who he's going to help?
His process is you have to be African-American and you have to want to pass the bar.
Oh, okay.
Period.
That's it.
Period. Okay. So if someone's listening to this and they're in California, because California is one of the hardest exams in the country to pass, how would they get in contact with him if they wanted his help?
I will put his cell phone number in the show notes.
Okay. All right. So look in the show notes for the telephone number if you want to contact Attorney Jenkins, who this wonderful Bar Daddy movie is about. If you're needing help, thank you for that, because I'm sure that was going to be a question like, well, how do I contact him? I'm studying.
I'm definitely sharing his number because my sister lawyer.
Can I read a quick post from our Instagram today?
Sure.
From an attorney, and actually his name is Alexander Daniel. This is what he said today. He said, the man has no filter. He sent me home one day because I was not prepared. Come back prepared, he said. I love this man. I was a 94 UCLA law grad when I worked with Al. And then he also goes on to say, I sent students to him that quit because they were soft. Most of them did not pass. You have to put in the work. I went to Howard undergrad, so I understood that nobody cares about us like us. We care about us. Al cares about us. So that's the kind of teaching you get, and it's unapologetic. And but it's not for everybody. But once again, for the people that do go through it, they get results. And the film follows two students from graduation all the way to all the prep, and it lets you know whether or not they pass or whether or not they. So I don't want to give all that away.
Give that away.
But it follows. It follows their journey. It shows the celebrations. It shows the tears. It shows all the things that we go. And it's actually one of the interviews is with Compton Superior Court Judge Goff. And one of the things she says when she was studying for the bar, she called him. She said, "You know what, Al, I can't do it today. I'm sick. I just can't study today." what he told her, he says, you know what, you have the rest of your life to get sick. Get out of the bed and come study football.
Okay.
And she
Yeah.
and she did that, and now she's a judge, and she credits him with that. Now, obviously, some people say, I can't believe you said that. Get out of bed. Well, I'm sick of it. You know? So
old school.
yes,
It's called old school hard love. You know,
exactly.
some people don't get that, and I think I'll be honest, because my mom is like, I don't know, I can stop counting. I think she's like 71 or 72 now. I feel like after 60, 65, you earn the right to not have to have a filter. They kind of just say whatever they want to say. You kind of just have to give it to them because they're old enough, they've earned it. And so, yes. So if you're listening to this, you're interested, just know that you're gonna get the free coaching, but it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely worth it if you can, get to the other side of passing. What would you say is one of Attorney Jenkins' like best tips, based on you putting the movie together, in terms of one of the best tips he's given his students in terms of passing? What is one of the best tips he's given his students?
He would always say, one of his quotes is, he would say, the law is not like drugs. You can't overdose on it. So he would just say, prepare. You can never know too much law, and just prepare. That he mentioned that like 5 times when I asked him as far as what the best advice was. Just prepare. You
can't go wrong with preparing, because either you know the law or you don't.
And one of the things he also says is, while you're studying, unfortunately, he said you're going to have to, a lot of people you won't see for a while. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Absolutely.
They'll live.
Yeah,
60
exactly.
days is not a long time. You really only study hardcore really for 2.5 months. So it's not like it's months and months and months. So they'll survive. Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Yeah. And those are probably his biggest tips.
Okay, well, I love that. I love that first one. Me and Jas like, I like that. It's not like drugs. You can never overdose on the law. I love that. So with that being said, and this is actually maybe just a question for both of you. There's so many, and maybe because the bar exam is coming up, people are posting like, famous lawyers that haven't passed the bar. I see a lot of reels posting like, famous people that haven't passed the bar. So we're going to talk about the Black ones. So obviously Angela Rye, Michelle Obama, both, Kamala Harris, none of these people passed the bar the first time. They seem to be doing okay. So why do you think, it is almost like this kind of secret in the Black legal community about how many people really just don't pass the bar? Why do you think there's just this stigma? If, like you said, technically, it doesn't technically make or break your career in the long term, whether you pass the first time or not. Why do you think there's just kind of this stigma that nobody really wants to talk about? And therefore, they don't ask for help because they don't want to admit that they didn't pass. What are your thoughts on that, Jas?
One thing.
Jay first, and then Jas.
Okay. Well, one thing I know from one of the producers on our films, attorney Evangeline Mitchell, and one of the things that she says is that a lot of times it's first generation law students, so you don't have that uncle that you can call and get that help, or that grandfather who's been practicing for 30 years. And they, people talk, you all know there's certain things that you might not learn, but when you have somebody that's gone through the process, it's much more easier. And that's a big takeaway from a lot of the people that I've interviewed. Another takeaway is just financial responsibilities. You mentioned that you shut it down for 2 months. Well, a lot of people may not have the resources to shut off work for 2 months. You may have to actually go to work and study, and you may have, children. So it's a little tougher for us to do that. And I think other groups are able to do that a little bit more. So those are probably the 2 biggest takeaways that I've gotten so far just from talking to people.
What are your thoughts, Jas, about kind of like the stigma of not passing, again, specifically in the Black legal community?
Yeah, so Jay kind of took my first point, which was the financial side. I was blessed to be in a position where, I got a scholarship to pay for my would pay my rent, while I was studying for the bar exam. But a lot of folks, aren't in a position where, they can just completely shut it down. I coach future lawyers right now that are studying for the bar exam. And those that are struggling the most are those that just can't seem to have enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
Right. Jimmy and Sally, they got their trust fund set aside that's been there since many years before them, and we're still over here fighting for reparations. We just don't have that same deep pocket, that a lot of other folks have, particularly in this Black subgroup. I would also say there's a lot of shame that a lot of future lawyers feel, and it causes them to shut down and just be silent. I see it all the time on social media, people who are here, I'm studying for the bar, posting this is the third.
And then they just disappear.
They disappear.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, this is deeper than the bar exam. Shame is something that runs deep, in Black communities, with our traumas, with the things we've been through. And a lot of times we've been taught to just stay quiet about it. Don't share your dirty laundry, or what have you. So I think it's really deeper to a bigger issue. Of course, I'm no psychologist or anything like that.
No, but I mean, you just hit on something I didn't think of. Yes, shame is part of just the Black culture in general. We have shame about certain things. So it would be any different of, okay, you didn't spend all this money to go to law school. You didn't spend, for those that are listening that don't know anything about the bar exam, on average, you're going to spend anywhere for $1,000 to $1,500, depending on which state, to just to sit for the exam.
Just to sit for it.
That doesn't include, your bar prep course, which could be $2,000 to $5,000. So it's a lot of money just to even take it. We ain't talking about passing it, just taking it. And so, I think people go through all that, and then people like, so you're a lawyer yet? Can you practice yet? And then it's like, I didn't pass, and I don't want to have to go through the story of why I didn't pass. And so, I do think there's just an undercurrent. I like how you said there's an undercurrent just in the Black community about not airing your dirty laundry and not talking about your feelings, and not understanding that talking about your feelings can actually, and then you overcoming that feeling can actually inspire the next person. With that said, Jas, tell people where they can find your coaching services. Because like I said, I know you help get people in law school, but you also help with the bar exam. Where can people find information about all your various offerings?
Sure. So if you're literally watching JasTalksLaw.com, everything is there, from my pre-law masterclass to my 1L Success Academy to Bartivity, which is our new bar prep coaching program, and even working with me one-on-one. But you can also, in addition to my website and seeing everything we have going on there, you can find me on social media. People will tell you, if you DM me on Instagram, ask me a question, I'm going to respond. And I'm not going to give you some like general response. Like, if I can give you a quick, like, yes, no, do this, do that, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes now, folks will send you paragraphs and paragraphs, and it's like,
let me put a disclaimer before I open up the DMs. So don't DM her. Set up a one-on-one session if you want to get just quick messages. Yes.
Right, but the gist is Instagram at Jas Talks Law, Twitter at Jas Talks Law, info at JasTalksLaw.com is my email. But I'm very, very accessible. I'm in Atlanta. You might catch me outside one day, and if we might hit the hookah and talk about the LSAT.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Jay, you're obviously in California. Al Jenkins, who's still to this day still coaching, he's in California, in the LA area. You told folks, I think a couple of minutes ago, or at the top of your interview, is it bardaddymovie.com?
Yeah, it's bardaddymovie.com, and that's where all our social media and everything is. But I just want to say thank you to both of you, because you all are doing so much to move the needle, not only raise awareness, but just help our community. And that 5%, I mean, you can't look at that and not get emotional, because you know what that means. And we this isn't the show for that, but you know what that 5% means.
That number has not moved in years and years and years. So we're trying to move the number with podcasts like this, with services like what Jas offers, even what your uncle is doing. The goal is to finally move past that that 5% for sure.
Amen.
For sure.
Yeah, because one more thing, people don't know that you all are also sacrificing, because you all can go and be some corporate attorneys or take on these huge cases and those sorts of things. But by working with the community and by helping people to pass, you all are giving up so much, and you all are sacrificing so much too. So I just want to say just thank you for that, because I believe that percentage is going to go up, and it's because of people like you and Al. The sacrifices you are making is the reason for that. So definitely thank you.
For sure.
We
And
appreciate
definitely let Attorney Al know that we said hello and that you were like one of the best representatives of him for the movie. As he said, Bar Daddy movie. If you want to contact Al, you're trying to study for the infamous California bar exam. Obviously, we'll have that information in our description. Before we go, we always end with our Black Excellence Moment of the Week. Our Black Excellence Moment of the Week goes to Tiffany Henyard. She is the first Black female mayor of an Illinois town. So shout outs to her. You know, the podcast, obviously we speak to lawyers, we speak to judges, but we also speak to those in the law, politicians, you know, legislators, anyone Black in the law that is the first, or, you know, definitely making moves in the law to help our community, we want to highlight. So shout out to her. And as always, here on the Black Lawyers Podcast, we are rooting for everyone Black. Take care, everyone.